When you look at Shadow of Mordor, you might expect it to be just another typical fantasy game, but you would be wrong about that because this game is about two things, beef and retaliation. That's right, this game is about gang warfare. And I'm only half joking about that, so welcome to Mordor, where the orcs are plentiful and the grudges are eternal. And we'll start things off with the combat. If you've ever played any of the Batman Arkham games, you will feel right at home here. It has that same smooth flow of counters and strikes and contorting the enemy's bodies to deal the most amount of pain possible. Except here, you're not just bruising villains, you're turning orcs into kebabs. If you could even call this bruising in the first place. That's at least going to cause some internal bleeding. But Batman ethics aside, when it comes to the combat of Shadow of Mordor, at first it's basic stab, dodge, repeat, but as you unlock skills, it becomes a high-octane spectacle. The execution move especially is a thing of beauty. It's like it was sent down from the gods to provide us true joy and entertainment. I highly recommend you unlock it first. Look at this. Just look at this. And you have to keep in mind that these orcs talk a lot of shit. These boys are very disrespectful. So it feels very satisfying building up these combos and then decapitating these boys in slow motion. It's the gaming equivalent of a mic drop, except the mic is your enemy's severed head. And then you add the wraith powers. Exploding heads? Check. Turning orcs against each other? Double check. But what really sets the combat apart is how it feels. Every swing of the sword, every counter, every brutal finisher, it's all so satisfying. It's like the game took a masterclass on how to make virtual violence feel personal. But let's move on to the best part of this game, the Nemesis system. Now this mechanic is the only reason I even consider Shadow of Mordor to be an RPG in the first place. Because the game doesn't have dialogue options or any way for you to really change the story whatsoever. You're just playing as Talion to complete Talion's revenge quest and that's it. So to make up for the boring story, the developers gave us the most reactive gameplay I have ever seen with the Nemesis system. What the system does is turn every orc you meet into a mix of a high school bully and a WWE wrestler.
Ready for me to crush you like a rotten fruit, you schrock?
Every captain has a name, a personality, and a flair for theatrical insults. Also, if any of the countless random orcs you're fighting in the world kills you, they will also graduate and become a captain with their own unique personality as well. And the best part is they all remember you. That orc that just killed you, who is now a captain, the next time you meet him, he will be so much cockier and talking a ridiculous amount of shit. And you know damn well we can't let that disrespect fly, so we find him and take care of business. But what's even cooler is that when you kill an orc, sometimes they can come back to life and they'll have scars from the way you killed them. And this can happen multiple times. It'll keep coming back more and more disfigured each time. And the Nemesis system is so deep that I've only managed to talk about like half of it so far. There are also things like duels where orcs will fight each other to move up in the ranks. You can also play around the orc hierarchy by mind controlling one captain and making him go murder another captain. And I still haven't covered everything yet. But to sum everything up, the Nemesis system doesn't just make the world feel alive, it makes it feel personal. But unfortunately, it's time for us to talk about the bosses. Or more accurately, the two different games that Shadow of Mordor is trying to be. Take the orc captain fights, they're absolute gold. These fights are chaotic, unpredictable, and packed with so much personality. One minute you're dominating a captain, the next his buddies show up and now you're being chased across the entirety of Mordor. It's messy, it's frantic, and it's so much fun. Every captain feels like their own separate boss fight, complete with weaknesses, strengths, and a flair for the dramatic. But then there are the story bosses, you know, the ones the developers apparently forgot to finish. So let's talk about it, but I'm going to avoid spoiling any of the bosses and the roles they play in the story. So in this section, I'm mostly going to be talking about the boss mechanics themselves to try to give you an idea of just how truly ass these fights are. One of the fights is you shooting charged arrows at a monster until a button prompt comes up for you to press a button to deal damage, and it's just that over and over and over again. The next boss fight is an insultingly easy stealth mission. You basically sneak up behind a guy, you press a button, you deal damage to him, he disappears, you do it over and over and over again until he dies. And you might be thinking, surely the final boss will be good, right? But no, they turned the final boss into a quick time event. There is no boss fight. You just press a few buttons and you win the entire game. All of that setup just for a quick time event. If you played the final boss fight of Far Cry 3, it's just like that and just as unsatisfying. It's really bad. And I'm gonna be 100% honest with you guys, as annoying as the boss fights and missions for this game are, deep down at the bottom of my heart, I really do miss these kinds of games. You know, like those games where you actively became super good at the combat just so at the end they can go, no, wait, let's make you play Dance Dance Revolution against the boss instead. Those kinds of games, right? Where they would just like throw anything out there to see what stuck. So with that being said, despite me despising a few things about Shadow of Mordor, I'm still gonna place it in the A tier. It's a must play for the Nemesis system alone, and I almost forgot to mention the music. The music in this game is amazing. Each orc chief has their own little chant. It's all so good. Just listen to this. the game just oozes personality. And that's it. Thank you so much for watching. And if you have any RPG recommendations, please leave them down in the comments, as well as any other corrections or ideas you might have. Have a good one.